Hello, my name's Julie Cairnes and I'm a life mastery and conscious creation coach. I'd like to welcome you today to the Inner Peace Masterclass, and today we have with us the wonderful Beth Horndobler. Beth is a certified intuitive strategist and divine channel. So I'd like to welcome you today, Beth, to the Inner Peace Masterclass. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here with you and with everyone.
It's wonderful to have you with us, and I'm really interested to start off with you talking a little about your history, because you have a very interesting past life. I mean, it's almost so you have a new incarnation within your current life, that you were a former trial attorney, a trial attorney, and so that is like a hugely different world. It really, actually, to me, when I look at it, is a world unto itself. So in a sense, you've gone into a parallel universe or a different universe. How did that all happen for you? How did you change lanes?
Kicking and screaming and grinding through the mud. I did not do it easily. I did not allow myself to hear the call that I needed to make the shift from the inside out. I knew that. I just didn't hear it. I didn't allow it. I kept trying to refit myself as a lawyer to make it work. I mean, one of the things that didn't work for me as a lawyer was that certainly as a trial lawyer, there may be other areas. For example, I heard a lawyer speak who is working with the Indians, the Native American Indians here who are fighting for water rights for us all. And that man is all light. And everything he's doing is sacred. But that's a very different kind of practice than being a medical malpractice, products liability, catastrophic torts, which are injury cases. Trial attorney, it was very male dominated, and that dovetailed perfectly in sort of the perfect storm with my imbalance internally, where I was much more flowing the divine masculine than the divine feminine, and in the opposite order. The head should follow the heart should lead, the divine feminine should lead, and the masculine should follow. And for me, it was all about getting stuff done and making it happen, using my mind. I was very good at it, long to-do lists, getting everything done. And I made myself sick. I made myself sick mentally, physically, spiritually. I have a very dear friend who is actually, she's one of the singers on my free gift, Bonnie Walker, who said after I quit practicing law that she was really proud of me, not only for finally biting the bullet and quitting, but for honoring the struggle that I had gone through for 20 years, trying to be whole and spiritual, and to balance that with being this tough, hard-bitten, drinking, male-dominated person that was required for me to be a trial lawyer. And just when I think back on it, drinking was a very big part of it. Swearing, being bluffing. You, for example, you might have $1 million to settle a case, but you're going to try to settle it for $500,000 by saying I only got 6. So a lot of lying. I mean, that when you break that straight down, that's lying, and that obviously is not anything that is congruent with being whole or one. So that, plus just the social aspects of having to prove myself that I was tough enough. It started right off the bat. I started as a prosecutor to get trial experience and have a sort of regular schedule while my daughter, who was 7 at the time, could grow up. And it was very hard. A piece of myself just shriveled up, and it didn't die, but it went away. It went down there under the floor, and it stayed there until I quit. And I was really good at it. Mm-hmm. There was a time when I had a case where there was no liability. It was a products liability case, and this man had been horrifically injured. And he also had been in the Vietnam War. He and his older brother, he was 2, his brother was 4. Their parents moved out and left them in an apartment. And it took like 5 or 6 days where the neighbor called someone, figuring out these kids were alone. I mean, everything horrible that could happen to a person in their life had happened to this man. And when I went to the expert, because in a products or a medical malpractice case, you've got to have an expert to say that there was negligence. The man said the product that was involved that caused the injury was state of the art, and I just lost it. I slammed my fist on the table and I started cursing, and I said, you know what? I'm not leaving until you find something wrong with this product. Now, he did, and we were able to settle it. And was that right? Was it wrong? I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I know that it was right for me to stand up for that man. And he felt that. He felt that I was fighting for him and he needed that. But is that right to demand that an expert goes so far as to find something that I can then turn around and manipulate the other side with? I mean, the whole system is flawed. And me being a part of it, I had to buy into that, and that kept me stuck and dark and tight and lost. And so the day came when it was just, I've got to save myself. And I heard a voice. I had heard voices before, sometimes from being inebriated, but I always knew the difference when the voice was actually a divine calling, a voice of an angel. And the voice I heard was, you are not going to survive. Don't leave.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like no choice, no problem. And it was very difficult. I made the decision. I was going to quit the practice of law, leave Chicago, come to California, sell my condo, have that to stake me. I was going to be a personal assistant, a high-end personal assistant, because I was really, really good at fixing other people's lives, even though my own was a wreck. And I had all this experience because in the meantime of being a trial lawyer, I'd done everything else you could imagine outside of that, trying to find my way through. I mean, I had started an independent jazz record label. I had done catering, event planning. I mean, you name it, I did it. I ran a bar. I was a bartender. I mean, I did everything. I managed bands. I tried so many different things, multi-level marketing, anything to find that way out. And that was why I thought, okay, I can do this. I'll be a personal assistant. And that was just after 2008 when the market crashed. Yeah. And long story short, I was told by a high-end headhunter out here, there's no way I can place you because people who had personal assistants are personal assistants now. Come on out here and check Craigslist. I was 53 years old. You want me to move to California and check Craigslist? And then because of the market crash, I sold my condo as a short sale. I had no money, to fall back on, and yet it all worked out.
Yeah.
One step at a time. It all worked out because I had heard that voice, I had heard the call, and I knew that it was true, that this was the way forward. And so 6 years later, here I am.
It's amazing when you've got the perspective now, but at the time it probably didn't feel quite so clear.
Oh no, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. When I went to work and I started telling people, I told my secretary, and she said, "What's wrong? Are you dying?" What do you mean, am I dying? I'm moving to California. My daughters, my grandsons, they live there. Well, I know, but why are you quitting the law? And at the time I was doing criminal law. That was one of my ways, trying to find my way out, criminal appellate law. And so I said, why don't I get an out date? Which is what you're saying when someone's locked up. What's their out date? I don't get an out date. I got a sentence of natural life without parole because I became a lawyer. But they taught you in law school, the law is a jealous mistress.
Right.
And then it extends out into the community. I mean, people were astonished. One lawyer friend of mine said, "Good for you." The rest of them, and they don't keep in touch now. I mean, there's no animosity, but I know they see what I'm doing on Facebook, and they don't. The only time they engage with me is if I engage with them over something that's happening in the law.
So it's almost unbelievable to those people that you've left behind, that you've left that world behind. It's such a... So you have to almost die to leave.
Yes, you too. And then the other thing secondarily that I think is most shocking to them is I quit drinking completely. And that, because it's such and I'm not saying you have to drink to be a lawyer. That's not true, but there is a lot of it. And just the whole lifestyle is not healthy. It's certainly, again, I'm confining that for any lawyers listening. There are areas that are not like this, but the one I was in was not. So it has been a long journey, as I call it, from law to light. But here I am.
You know, part of me, he looks at people who've been through that, and I've, you know, like many of us who work in this, as, I don't know, light workers, spiritual workers, have been in jobs that really we weren't aligned with, that grated against our souls severely. But, you know, when you look back, you say, and I can look at you and go, well, thank God you were there. Thank God your heart was there for those people, because even though it was gradually destroying you and you had to get out, your presence within that kind of milieu, it gave it some health, you know, it gave it some integrity, that your soul was there and you helped people from that place. And also, I think it kind of colors the work that you do now, because when I look at the work you do now, and I can clearly see the strength of the spirit that will come through you, because you naturally have been through like a crucible of some sort with the work you've done. And so strengthening of the soul, of the mind and the soul and the body, like just the kind of momentum of that and power of just like staying afloat in that world. I feel that it would have really strengthened you in so many ways, and therefore you will be used as a channel now by very strong messages to come through.
It's very true. And now looking back, the last several years that I was practicing law, I, as I said, was doing appellate criminal work, and pretty much like a public defender. 99% of all of my clients were incarcerated, and a huge percentage of those were going to do long sentences, and there's nothing that can be done. Even if something should be done, even if they had not gotten a fair trial or were innocent, the chances of getting that conviction or getting any meaningful relief on appeal are very slim. So it started to really depress me, because that job was my, okay, I can get out of trial law and do this, and then I can finish out my work life here. This will work. I can, my politics, my social beliefs, everything are aligned with these do-gooder people, not like the ones looking for power and money through trial work. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just there's a lot of room for things running amok. And so as I found myself getting more and more depressed about not being able to help anyone, because it was always my goal. Always I wanted to help people. I thought that I would be able to do that through the law, and it just isn't really available. Justice is somewhat of a fiction when you think of it in the legal system. In any case, I started having conversations with my clients, because due to budget constraints, we didn't visit them. We only talked to them once or twice on the telephone. And so when I was delivering the news that there's not anything I can do for you, or this is what I'm going to do, but the chances of the court doing anything about it are slim to none, I would say, okay, now can I talk to you as Beth? Because obviously this was not part of my job. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for doing it. I just would like to talk to you as Beth. Is that okay? You know, not as your lawyer. Sure. How are you going to use this time? What are you going to do for a person doing natural life with the rest of your life? Because where you are is where you're going to be. And it doesn't matter where you are. It matters what's happening inside. So can we talk for a little while about how you can live your life and what you can do with yourself? And I had no idea that what I was doing then was the kernel, the essence of the intuitive spiritual counseling that I do now. Yeah. I thought it was a throwaway. It was like, it's the only thing I do that makes a difference, and it's nothing, and it's stupid. And then my last client the only client I kept in touch with, because again, it's been, 6 years since I quit. Right. He just got out of jail a year ago, and he was innocent. He served 22 years. He absolutely was innocent. Everything that could have gone wrong did, and he did the whole time. Oh. But we kept in touch, and I see him when I go back to Chicago. He's a friend now, and this conversation came up, and he looked at me and said, "You have no idea how much that means to be talked to like a human being. Yeah. Have someone talk to you about how you feel and what you're going to do, and how you give you ideas for how you can as you always put it, do this time.
Yeah.
Nobody talks to people that are locked up like that. And it was the first inkling that I had of, you know, like right now, I'm just getting the chills and the tingles and the download of the divine. It was the first time that, looking back, I thought, oh, wow, I really was making a difference, even though I didn't know it. So it all started, it's always all been happening, but it did truly start there in earnest without me even understanding that I was talking to the divine and bringing that forward into my conversations with those you know, men. They're all men that are locked up.
Well, I think, you know, like in some ways, I really want to talk to you about your work, but you know, this conversation about the transition from a lifestyle that was really not working for you into, you know, like your true spiritual work, it's a really interesting conversation in itself, because so many people really don't flower until their middle years, you know, and they can look back in dismay and go, oh, like, I kind of missed my calling, I didn't hear it. But in a sense, you've come into a sort of a sense of your own power by that stage. It does inform the work that you are now doing. So, you know, and there are many women I can think of who really didn't really take off in the direction that they purely loved until their 50s or 60s. I know that Louise Hay, for example, I don't know if she set up Hay House until she was in her 60s. Am I right? I think, you know, there are quite a few examples of people who really took off in their 50s and 60s. And I think that's so inspirational, because I do see people around me who start to go on a downward slide and go like, you know, and I just think, no, this is where, you know, your life and your game can lift so dramatically, because you have that wealth of experience behind you informing what you do now. You know, I look at you and I think, yes, you worked with law. Now you're working with natural law, natural justice. You're getting the pure universal download, so you can actually discern the difference. And you are being used, like, you now recognize.
Absolutely.
Spirit speaking through you. Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting that I never thought of it the way you just said it. And yet I've always said, I don't care about the law. I care about what's right.
Yeah.
And that there, you know, there's a shadow side, of, you know, goodness to that, but there's a shadow side to it, because if misused, you know, going outside the bounds of the law as a lawyer, and certainly as a prosecutor, you have a lot of power.
Yeah.
So it's a fine edge, and yet that was me saying, this natural law is what I care about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a very powerful transition. It really is. It's quite a huge life change. I can really feel it from here.
It really is. And then once I got out here to California, I began taking care of my twin grandsons, because of course the big fancy personal assistant job, I won't even say it didn't happen. It wasn't meant to happen. I came out here thinking, or as I was beginning to come, I thought that, well, I'll do what he said. I'll find a job on Craigslist. And then my daughter had gotten a promotion and said, our time with her is about done. How would you feel taking care of the boys? Because if you get that job, we're never going to see you. Yeah. And I said, well, all right. I had never been a stay-at-home mom, but I had absolutely adored these two little boys. And ironically, years earlier, probably a good 18 years prior, a neighbor who was a very highfalutin, always dressed fancy, driving her Mercedes, absolutely not a person you would think that was into anything woo-woo. She liked to drink a lot, and we were having some drinks and some appetizers at her house, and she said, let me see your hand. I said, for what? I read palms. And she looked at my palm and she said, there's 2 more kids coming to you. And I'm like, no way, man, I'm done. No, there are, and they're boys. And I kept guessing, like, is it this or is it my godson? She kept saying, no, there's 2 more boys. And then my daughter had twins.
Right.
So even that was predicted. And so I come out here and I'm trying to run our life. Mm-hmm. And they were like 12 to 14 hour days with these 2 little beautiful but wild and, you know, 3-year-old twins. It's like herding cats that are feral. And the days were long, and it was just really a big challenge. I called myself a park tramp. because we were always out in the park. I never spent so much time. That first summer I was here, I spent more time in the park than I did my entire life. And I grew up in a baseball family where, you know, being in the park for the games was everything.
Yeah.
And my little Buddha boy was up on top of the couch and going crazy. And I'm trying to get them dressed, and we're behind schedule, and we're meeting the neighbors. And if we don't get going, we're not going to make it. And he says, well, while we get going, and here he takes his sock and throws it. He's got his underwear on his head, and his brother's screaming and running back and forth. And it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I can't start screaming yet. You guys, this is not what you're here for. So I just took a deep breath in, and I said, Quincy, what are you saying? And he said, on our way to getting going, can we look in the dirt? And now my head really wanted to explode. And I said, why do you want to look in the dirt? There's treasure in the dirt. And I said, what? And again, the chills started, the tingling started. We spent 45 minutes in the dirt. He showed me so much stuff in the dirt. The neighbor came and found us. There was no problem. We were going to the park and then to the museum. Who cares if we're late? And that moment switched everything.
I love that.
What he was telling me was to be.
Yes.
He didn't have the language for that, but he was saying, you know, just be and see what's there.
Yes.
And it changed everything.
They are our teachers, the little ones. They're not far away from the source. And so now you have the Academy for the Soul. Let's talk a little about the work you're doing now, because you have a number of different ways of working with people. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. I see that you've got integrative soul technology clearing, persona clearings, Fibonacci spiral activation. Can you talk to some of those?
It started with doing angel readings, and then as my training went further through, I've gone through all the levels that currently exist in the Academy for the Soul, also known as the Academy for the Intuitive Arts. And the deeper I've gone, so the training in the Academy, which I really respect the way that Crystal Hughes has it structured, having gone through all this higher academic education, I really have a framework for assessing what she's doing in how she's teaching her students. It's very structured. There's a lot of manuals, books, not exactly textbooks, but there's a lot of documents to work through, to review, to learn from. And what she's teaching you, I would hope she would agree with this because it's my assessment, but she's teaching you how to go deeper within, how to clear the layers of everything that stands between you and the divine so that all your gifts can come down. And as a result of that, and of course that's a gross oversimplification of it, there's the process of the integrative soul technology that I was certified in, which is a combination of a bunch of different modalities, neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, all sorts of things that helps people identify personas, which are subconscious aspects of themselves that fracture off at a point of pain or traumatic time. Could have happened in this life. Past life could be something you brought in through your DNA, mother, father, genealogy. It could come from anywhere. And then it's the example that I think is so easy to understand is, imagine it's, prehistoric times, and all you have as a weapon is a stick, and here comes a saber-toothed tiger. So in that moment, you decide fight, flight, or freeze, and whichever option you chose stays with you. And then you keep coming back until now it's 2017, and you're still running that saber-toothed tiger persona, so that you might be in a store or your house or your office, and that sensation of the, let's say it was the flight, was the program the persona's running. I've got to get out of here or I'm going to die. And you know logically that it doesn't make sense, that nothing's happening, you're safe, there's no reason to do it, and yet you can't stop it. That persona is running you, and you've got to get out of there. So the process, the IST process, identifies that, helps you to timeline therapy to see, that you may not get all the way back to the first one, to the earliest one the first time, but you layers can peel it back until you get such a handle. If you do enough of the work, for example, I was freaking out because I dented my car. I was obsessing over this for the past 3 weeks, could not stop. And I knew it was nuts. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And then during a meditation yesterday, so it took this long for me even trained to recognize it's a persona. Yeah. And I had to clear it. And it was fascinating because it was a petty criminal and the shadow side was a cop. It was like a two-faced persona. So the cop is constantly yelling at the petty criminal because you dented your car, you didn't even wreck it, you can't even claim it on the insurance, but it's messed up. And the petty criminal is like, but I did the best I could. I didn't crash up the car. And they keep arguing, and that's where I got caught. Wow. To where it was driving me nuts. And I cleared it in literally a few minutes, and I'm fine now. It doesn't bother me anymore.
What a process.
I'll get it fixed.
So their personas is part of your own persona. You're owning some fairly seriously interesting characters in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Always. They're very, very animated. So that work is very central to anyone who's going on a long path with me, because you've got to clear them to be able to access what more there is for you. So that's like a big part of what I do now. I mean, I still do the readings, and I do energy work. I'm an energy healer, and ironically, my mother was trained at the Barbara Brennan School of Energy Healing in the 80s when I was deep into being a lawyer, and just thought the whole thing was ridiculous, but not ridiculous in that I didn't believe it, but it was like, whatever, there goes mom again doing something else. And I didn't embrace it, I'll say that. I respected it, but I didn't embrace it. And I was talking to her about, just about 6 months ago, about removing some hooks from someone's energetic field. And she said, wait a minute, how did you know it was a hook? And I said, well, I could see it. It was a hook. It went right in their back, and it kind of looped around the front, and it was a hook. And then she said, well, how did you know how to take it out? I'm like, I took it out. I don't know. I just took it out. And she later told me that that was very unusual, and that I was gifted or something. And it was in that moment that I realized that I am second generation energy healer. That though my mom only did that on the side, she was a college professor and found that very rewarding. She was that, and then now I am. And I can see it in my grandchildren and my nephews, who are the same age as my grandchildren, because my sister is from a different marriage and a lot younger than I am. And the 6-year-old recently told me I'm an energy healer and a seer. And since then we've been having these conversations. So how that relates to the academy is that the way Crystal trains you is to open. Yes. And then it's not like being, the only that you get certified in that process, because that's her process that she devised, and she wants to make sure, of course, that you're properly trained to do it. But that's the only certification. The rest of it, it's on you to see what more there is for you and how you can do it. And the deeper I go, the more amazing the work is. That's how I got to the Fibonacci activation, where the Fibonacci spiral it looks like that. And it's a sequence of numbers that will keep recurring. And it's in the natural order of things. It's in plants and flowers and all manner of things. And if you know enough of the mathematics of it, stock traders even use it to predict quite successfully when to buy and sell and make money. That's not something I'm ever going to do, because that's very complex. But it was downloaded to me, and then I kept seeing the spiral, and I kept seeing the numbers. And then I had to go back and do the research to figure out, what does all this mean? Because I am absolutely not math and science oriented from, my background in school. And it's taken me quite by surprise. I'm fascinated with quantum physics and mathematics now.
There's something different about the sacred numerals and the sacred words and letters that are so different than mainstream mathematics. Although they can cross over. I did say to someone the other day that a lot of physicists do end up seeing God.
Yes.
They just like end up in a place going, there's just like nowhere else that this could be coming from. Really wondering if you could actually do a brief meditation with us, so to show us some of the ways that you bring people down from maybe an anxious place or into a more calm place within themselves.
Sure. How much time do we have?
We could have about 4 or 5 minutes or less. Okay. It depends on what you more or less. So everyone, this is the short version, the very, very short version of a breathing and a grounding, centering exercise that you can do anytime throughout the day. Obviously, you can do it with your eyes open, but to really do it, you need to close your eyes. So if you are out and about, you need to be in a place where you can close your eyes. But it is something that can help you come to that place of presence and stillness and inner peace from within, so that you can leave whatever is happening around you out there and still maintain your sense of inner peace. So if you'll just all close your eyes and sit comfortably, we're going to take 3 deep breaths in to shut all the talk and the trappings of the day. We're going to first breathe in joy, and then peace, and then love. And on the exhale, you're going to release everything that isn't that. So breathing in joy and surrender on the exhale. And now breathe in peace and let everything else go that isn't that. And now breathe in love and let all that is not love go. And now bring your attention to the center of your heart space and imagine that you can feel the front and the back of your heart space, that you can feel the energy flowing through, as if you can breathe into the front and exhale out the back. Just take a couple of breaths in, breathing, pulling the breath into your heart space and exhaling it out the back. And now imagine from that center point that you can breathe in the infinity symbol. You're going to inhale the first loop up over your head, and then it comes back down to the heart space, and exhale. The bottom loop is going to circle around the bottom of your feet and then come back up. So breathing in, make that first loop over your head, breathe it down into the center, exhale, down around your feet, and complete the loop at your heart. Now from the left to the right, breathe in, loop that first part of the infinity, that figure 8 around, and exhale out the left, bringing it back around. So you've completed that second infinity symbol. And now from your right shoulder, breathing in, drawing that loop up over your right shoulder, exhaling back to the center of your heart space, breathing in down to your left hip, and then looping it back around, completing that third infinity symbol. Now breathe in towards your left shoulder, make that top loop, exhale, pull it into the center of your heart, and now breathe in down to your right hip, and exhale, completing the loop at the back of your heart. Now just take a deep breath in, feeling into the light and the energy flowing from your heart through these infinity symbols, allowing yourself to get centered and grounded in the breath of the heart through the infinity symbols. Imagine as you sit there that from that center point, a laser beam ray of white light extends infinitely up and another one down.
connecting you to the central point in the center of Mother Earth and to the heavens above. And just take another breath in and out. And now lastly, to come into a total state of stability from that center point in the heart, imagine that same laser beam of white light extending left and right infinitely, so that you're stabilized horizontally at the same time as you are stabilized vertically. Take another deep breath in and exhale. And then just when you're ready, open your eyes. And as you open your eyes, see if you can't continue to feel the circular flow of that energy of the infinity spirals going around, and then the central column and the horizontal column, and always from the center of your chest. Just activating that heart light into your breath, and it can bring you into a state of
yeah. Thank you.
You look a little
yeah, you know, as soon as you close your eyes, you can suddenly feel where all the tensions are in your body. It's such a relief to just let it go out of your body and relax the muscles in your face and your body. It's just so far, such a quick way to really come back into your skin in a peaceful, calm way. Thank you so much. It's been amazing talking with you, Beth. And if anyone wants to find your work, what's your website? It's www.
Beth Herndobler, BETHHERNDOBLER.com.
And you're offering a free gift today to everybody. We've already spoken of it, but it's a Peace Mantra ebook, I believe.
Yes, and it includes a downloadable MP3 of two professional singers chanting the peace mantra, Loka Samasta Sukhinu Bhavantu. And again, it's a wonderful way, a very sacred and easy way. It's my biggest thing is I lose that mental, the mind gets going as I'm following my mala beads when I do chant. And when it's recorded, I just go with it. And when it's done, it's done. So I find that it's really nice to have mantras recorded that the sound and the tone resonates and makes it so easy. So that's my gift to all of you. And I hope that it brings you much peace.
Well, you are a gift to all of us. And I think, you know, from my viewpoint, my vantage point, I would guess that you're not only second generation, you're probably quite, I'd say the lineage goes a long way back, but not only that, you carry it through lifetimes, you know, in that other way. And I really think that there's a great benefit to you having worked with the legal aspect. Somehow it's really marrying together with the work you do now, and it's really important. There are people who work from different levels. There are some who just gravitate to it straight away in their life. And there are others that go through these different paths. And I do think that there is a value in where we've been and to where we are now.
Yes.
To reclaim that there is something in what you've worked with that comes into the work you do now. That is really important for the world. I really
absolutely. It definitely prepared me. Yeah, I had to be taught that too, because I was so ready to leave it there. I had to have several people that I've trained with say, you need to bring that with you.
Yes.
Not only is it who you are, but it does set you apart, and your ability to walk in both worlds, to do the woo-woo light work and to also be in that straight world is not something everyone has. And that was so empowering. So I so appreciate you for recognizing that, you know, not just about me, but about everybody. We're all of who we are, and you so readily see that and reflect it back that it's just so beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Julie.
Oh, thank you. Because, well, I do know that people will gravitate to you who need to who have life circumstances that are really difficult, and you'll understand them. You know, it won't be kind of, as you say, like you understand life from all its different aspects.
I don't shock easily either.
I can't imagine.
It doesn't matter. Just throw it at me. It's okay. I'll take it. I can deal with it. So that's also very helpful.
Yeah, people need that so much. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, and we'll be happy to connect up again. So thank you, Beth. I appreciate your time today so much.
Thank you, Julie, for doing this and for having me. Bye, everybody.